There's a certain comfort to Antiques Roadshow, isn't there? It's the cozy Sunday afternoon of television. We settle in, watch as a hopeful guest brings a dusty family heirloom to a knowledgeable expert, and wait for that magical moment. The gasp, the wide-eyed stare, and the staggering valuation that could change a life. It's a formula built on history, hope, and the thrill of discovery. But what happens when the story behind an object is so dark, so heartbreaking, or so utterly baffling that the familiar script is thrown out the window? What happens when the expert, the calm and steady guide through history, is left horrified, heartbroken, or simply speechless? It's incredibly rare. The show's entire premise is to put a price on the past. But on a few unforgettable occasions, the human cost behind an item was so immense that to assign it a monetary value would be a profound insult. These are the stories of the items that broke the show's golden rule, leaving experts and audiences alike with a chilling reminder that not all history is for sale. 1. The bracelet that carried the weight of human chains. Picture the scene. A guest presents a beautifully carved, intricate ivory bracelet. On the surface, it's a stunning piece of craftsmanship, the kind of object that might typically elicit praise for its artistry and age. The guest, who bought it at a house sale for a mere $3, saw only its aesthetic beauty, completely unaware of the darkness etched into its very core. But expert Ronnie Archer Morgan knew. The moment he laid eyes on it, his entire demeanor shifted. The usual warmth and academic curiosity in his eyes were replaced by a deep, somber gravity. Before he even began, he drew a firm, unshakable line in the sand. "I want to make it absolutely clear," he stated, his voice ringing with conviction, "that I and we in the Antiques Roadshow wholly and unequivocally disapprove of the trade in ivory." This wasn't just a standard disclaimer. This was a prelude to something much heavier. He looked from the bracelet to the guest, his expression one of pained resolve. "But this ivory bangle here," he continued, his voice dropping, "is not about trading in ivory. It's about trading in human life." The air grew thick with unspoken history. Archer Morgan went on to explain the bracelet's horrifying purpose. It wasn't just an accessory, it was a tool of the transatlantic slave trade in the 17th and 18th centuries. The intricate carvings weren't just decorative, they depicted African figures, scenes of trade, and a European merchant. This was a ledger, a grotesque trophy worn by a slave trader to boast of his business, the buying and selling of human beings. The expert's description was raw and unflinching. He called the piece amazing in its historical significance but callous in its soul. You could feel his personal anguish and revulsion. He imagined meeting the original owner, the man who wore this testament to his own cruelty, and confessed a desire to tell him how honest I think he is, a statement dripping with bitter irony. When the inevitable moment of valuation arrived, the moment the entire show is built around, Archer Morgan refused. He shook his head, the decision absolute. "I just don't want to value it," he said, the emotion clear in his voice. "I do not want to put a price on something that signifies such an awful business." He explained that the item's true worth wasn't in pounds or dollars, but in the brutal lesson it contained. "The value is in the lessons that this can tell people, and I just love you for bringing it in and thank you so much for making me so sad." In that moment, he transcended his role as an appraiser. He became a guardian of memory, refusing to let the horrors of the past be sanitized into a price tag. The silence where a valuation should have been was more powerful than any number he could have uttered. 2. The child's letter that broke an expert's heart. Sometimes the horror isn't in the cruelty of man, but in the devastating quiet of a personal tragedy. During a World War II special in 2019, military expert Bill Harriman, a man accustomed to the grim artifacts of conflict, was presented with a small, unassuming bundle of letters. They held the story of a little girl named Audrey. In 1940, with the Blitz raining terror on Britain, thousands of parents made an unthinkable choice to send their children to safety across the ocean to Canada. It was an act of desperate love, a gamble to protect them from the war. Audrey was one of those children. The guest, a relative, presented the letters. The first one Harriman read was not from Audrey, but to her parents. Dated September 19, 1940, it was a cold, official confirmation of every parent's worst nightmare. The expert began to read it aloud, his voice steady at first, but soon catching on the brutal finality of the words. Dear Mr. Mansfield, I am very distressed to inform you that in spite of all the precautions